Hello everyone, welcome back to League of Legends DFS breakdown for the June 15th DraftKings slate. We can go ahead and quickly recap and then we can talk about these games. We do have the LCK games returning here, so it should add a little bit of an interesting fold into the mix. So we can quickly recap and then we can talk about these upcoming games. Note that there are 4 games to talk about. We're going to need to get these videos moving along here so we can get going. So LGD ended up taking a game off of JDG. This was a pretty surprising result. JDG did end up taking the series overall in a relatively convincing fashion in games 2 and 3. But game 1 definitely was pretty weird. They just kind of looked out of sync here. They didn't look that great. They fell behind early and nothing like worked out. I really don't know how they it feels weird. They should not have lost game 1, but they did. They ended up making some pretty critical mistakes. Kanavi's Lee Sin and Yigao's first strike Ari was not the play. Things didn't work out, but they ended up again turning it around. Yigao going back to regular runes in game 2 and 3 ended up being much better. So pretty good overall, I guess. I definitely thought JDG would have had the sweep, but these things happen. Top Esports Team WE. So game 1 was actually pretty close. Team WE definitely could have taken game 1. Had they played it a little bit better. The overall just skill discrepancy here was just a little bit too much. As much as I would love to talk up Biu Biu, Beishang, and Chie, game 1 they just really didn't do much. Kadaya definitely was a bit of a problem, not in the good Tyler one way, but the pretty negative one. So game 1 was definitely winnable for WE. So overall, that's why I'm not too down on how we kind of called that one. I definitely think if game 1 was winnable for WE, then maybe the series is a little bit different. I don't think WE would have swept them per se, but maybe it comes down to game 3 and it's a little bit closer than it looks. But Top Esports ended up getting the sweep, a little bit anticipated, but that's why I recommended we definitely just go lighter on yesterday's games. Betting, going with the big underdog, kind of risky, and that's how this panned out. So a loss on the day, but still up on the year for sure. So we can continue to go forward. And now we have a 4-gamer to look ahead to. We'll start in the LPL though, just because we do have those lineups. If you guys are a little bit new and the LPL's lineups do get released ahead of time. The LCK is anti-gambling. All of Korea is, like South Korea is pretty anti-gambling as a culture. So they do not give out the information typically beforehand. The first team, the first matchups, the first series of the day, the lineups do come out an hour ahead of time. So if you are up at an hour before lock, wherever that may be for you in the world, you'll get those lineups, but we will not have the lineups for the second LCK game ever. So keep that in mind. There is going to be some circumstances where that comes up and matters, but don't know if it'll matter that much here. I do think Nongshim DRX have relatively locked in rosters as far as I'm aware, so we'll keep that in mind. But interesting stuff. So we'll start with the LPL. LNG versus AL. It's going to be tough to go against LNG here because, again, I am somebody who I have LNG as the #1 team in the LPL. They definitely didn't look it in the first series, but I don't want to put too much stock into one series. I do think this one is a lot closer than the odds suggest. And Anyone's Legends plus 340 and LNG minus 550. I think realistically speaking, LNG is a deserved pretty sizable favorite here, but I think this is pretty close, and I definitely wouldn't be shocked if AL ended up winning this. AL actually looked pretty good. I'm pretty excited for AL going forward in the split. But for me, I think LNG is a lot better. It's tough to pick against my team here. Everyone knows I'm an AL fan. But I'm just going to have to go with LNG. I like LNG a good bit here. We know AL like to play a decent pace, so LNG definitely live in terms of DraftKings lineups. I'd imagine they'd be probably the most popular team on the slate, but I think it's well warranted. Up next is TTV5. Pretty normal here, except for V5 are bringing in Dream to replace a rookie, as a rookie is still traveling back, I think, after visiting his family in Korea. So he is still in COVID quarantines. I think he will be out for maybe a week, maybe a couple games. I'm not sure, but Dream is in, and from what I've heard, I've actually seen some posts on Weibo about the how V5 scrims have been going. I believe Doinby talked about how V5 was doing with Dream and scrims, and they said he was looking just really good either way. So, considering V5 was arguably the best regular season team in the split last year, or in the league last split, I definitely don't think they're going to be any worse for wear here. I definitely like firing up Dream here. I wonder if he's priced cheap. Yeah, he's actually the cheaper mid laner, so they didn't catch wind of that. But yeah, it is Dream. This is a little anticipated, so they do have some practice here with Dream. So there's not too many concerns for going with V5 here. It's tough to pick against V5 here, just like I said earlier, they were the best regular season team in the last split, so I would have to continue going that way. Again, TT is a team that I do like. However, similar to last series, it's just too hard, too much of a gap here, I think, in skill to try to justify the underdog pick. So I'm going to just go with, again, the pretty sizable favorite, plus or minus 550 at V5. I don't really love either of these price tags, but it's hard to go any other way, really. Yeah, I think that'll be it. Just double LPL favorites here for me. If it was only an LPL slate, I would probably just say take the night off, but it is not, so we look forward to the LCK. Again, we do not have lineups, so we're going to have to guess a little bit, but I think it should be relatively easy to see. The first one up is Kwangdong Freaks against Hanwha Life Esports. If we look at KDF and Hanwha's rosters, definitely just one-sided towards Kwangdong. They were looking much better towards the end of the LPL spring playoffs, or not the spring playoffs, but I mean they actually did look decent in the playoffs as well. But they actually ended up looking good towards the end of LPL spring. If we look here, we'll show all. We'll search KDF. So they ended up, they beat Hanwha, they beat Sandbox, they beat Bro, lost to DRX, took a game off of T1, took a game off of Gen G, beat Nongshim. So they're consistently beating the lower end teams, and I expect that trend to continue here. Overall, I'm just going to leave this one alone. I don't think the series has enough action in it for me to get interested at all. I think it's probably just a KDF win, but unless some of the stats show me different, I'm just not interested in this series so far. DRX Nongshim, so I actually do have some interest in this one. I do think these are two of the more better paced teams. Nongshim was a team that I was pretty interested in last split, but they never really put anything together. And I mean, similarly speaking to DRX, actually, DRX should be a lot better, but I think so should Nongshim. Nongshim is a team I believe in a lot, so that's the direction I'm going to lean in. I'm going to take my underdog here is going to be Nongshim. I'm not going to love it. For me, I just like the individual plays I saw from them last split. If we look again here, look at the league as a whole. Nongshim will finish 5-13, and then DRX ended up going 11-7. So based off of that, you definitely think DRX should be a pretty sizable favorite here. So maybe people will kind of get the wrong impression a little bit and go with DRX, maybe because they think DRX should be a bigger favorite. I don't think that's a crazy thought. However, I just like the Nongshim upside here. I think we saw a different team last split than what they actually are. We saw them start off pretty hot, I believe. They were 3-1 at one point. They lost to Hanwha, and they beat Sandbox down 1 KT. They took a game off of T1. Things were looking great, and then they just collapsed, lost pretty much everything from then on out, and they ended up 5-13 from a 3-1 start. So overall, that's why I'm feeling confident with Nongshim. I feel like they never got their feet under them last split, and maybe the sentiment on them is a little too low. I think based off of some of the individual things I saw, I'm pretty high on Kana, Dread, BDD, Ghost. Hopefully they stick with Peter instead of Effort, but I'm not sure where they would end up going in the support role. So I would definitely avoid this Nongshim support position altogether. But I like Kana, Dread, BDD. I like that top side of the map a good bit, and that's the area I'm going to be focusing on for my DK lineups, is the top side of Nongshim between Kana, Dread, and BDD. I think they have pretty good upside. Their team I'm buying into when it comes to the LCK overall, and that'll be something I talk about a lot when I create my LCK tier list. That's going to come out probably soon after this video is up. So I'm just going to do that as this uploads. So you guys will be able to see that soon as well. But yeah, Nongshim, definitely a team I'm buying into, and I think they're going to be my underdog to pair with some of the favorites like V5 and LNG. So if we look at some of the team stats from the LPL, and I guess we'll pull up the LCK ones, although I can't anticipate much coming through from that side. So we'll go 12-4. For this one, we'll do 12-4 and 12-5. Pretty similar sample size towards the end of LPL Spring and LCK Spring. We have AL, LNG, we have Victory 5, and Victory 5 is playing TT Thunder Talk. LCK, we have KDF, Kwangdong. I guess it might just be easier to do this. Nongshim, Hanwha, and DRX. So if we look at the combined kills per minute, these numbers are going to be a little bit off because typically the LCK plays longer, so their numbers are going to be smaller. However, if you have less kills per minute but higher minutes, then it's going to average out to about the same. These numbers are not too crazy. These are all pretty low. As we could see, Hanwhas are very low across the board. Kwangdongs are pretty low there as well. So you could argue that maybe this one's okay, but I'm still not going to get there. Nongshim DRX, I think this one is viable. Let's see if we look at losses. It's still not much. So I do think Nongshim is fine as a secondary underdog stack, and that's about it. I think you primarily just need to go with these LPL teams, like especially this like V5 AL. They play at such crazy paces. LNG and TT, although those are not the best numbers. I think especially if we look at losses, AL's losses are pretty crazy. So I definitely like LNG a good bit, and that's going to be it. I don't know. I hate doing this, but I feel like I should give out kind of my direction. I'm probably just going to be playing a lineup. I'm probably just doing one tonight. I don't see a lot to like from like most spots here. So I'm just going to do one lineup. I'm probably going to just have a pretty heavy LNG stack with a little bit of Nongshim, and that's going to be it for me. I already have the lineup in my head, and that's the way I'm going to go. I like trying to stick to single entry stuff, and that'll be how I look at it. So if we look at here, we can do it this way. Bringing out some old stuff here. This has the LPL and LCK Spring info in it. So if we do LNG and who is the other team? Am I crazy? It'd be LNG and Nongshim. I already have them here, so I've done this stack before, and that'll be it. Unfortunately, we don't get to we get some like bad info here, but we can parse it out kind of easily. So kill participation, Doinby, Light, Tarzan, Wandi, all at the top already. Peter, and then Dread, then Ghost, then BDD, Kana, and Ale towards the bottom. So definitely much favoring LNG here. It's how I'm going to stack up LNG, Nongshim. I would prefer the Nongshim top laner, Kana, 60% and 26% kill share. It's pretty good numbers for the top laner. But I think Doinby is probably going to be a solid captain. Maybe you could go down to I don't know if it's possible, but going with a light captain would be pretty good as well. His numbers are absolutely crazy. So if you could go to light and Ghost, I don't think that's a bad option. But double mids, maybe double junglers are definitely possible as well. I could definitely see big numbers from Tarzan, and we see big numbers from Dread as well. Dread usually is the main option when it comes to Nongshim. So there's a lot of options for captaincy here for LNG and Nongshim stacks, and that's the direction I'm going to go. I do think it is possible to play some Kwangdong or some Victory 5. However, that's just not the direction I want to go. So you guys can kind of interpret the stats however you want. I typically leave the links to those couple of stat websites that I use. So you guys can, take it a different direction if you prefer. I just like to kind of advise or not even advise, but I just like to talk about kind of what I'm doing and going from there. And that's just how I'm going to build tonight. I don't love a lot. I'm not going to get too crazy with it. I do like the small underdog in Nongshim. And I like LNGs, and they're going to be pretty popular as well. So I don't think I'm getting too crazy or too unique here, but 3 pretty big favorites and then 1 small underdog. Not a big night, so that'll be my idea and my build for the day. And yeah, and that'll be it. So I will see you guys again tomorrow. Hopefully we get a little bit better of a slate when it comes down to this how this stuff breaks down. So that'll be it, and I will see you guys then.